Welcome everybody to Relic Worlds Showdown. This is an expansion to the Savage Worlds Showdown system, which is available through Pinnacle Entertainment. It is a combat system using miniatures. Ours is more of a treasure hunting expansion for it, and we're going to have a Kickstarter for this starting May 27. That's Memorial Day weekend, and it's going to run through June. It's going to be available in July. Let me show you a little bit about it. Savage Worlds Showdown, as I was saying, is a combat system where you basically get a bunch of miniatures and you pit them up against each other. You get a movement every single turn and then an action, and the action is usually shooting at one another. Then you roll a dice to see whether or not you hit one another, and you just basically go through the board like that. What Relic Worlds Showdown adds to it is this idea of treasure hunting. In fact, treasure hunting kind of takes the forefront of this game system. The idea is that you put down these various little discoveries, and when pieces come to within a couple inches of it, you flip it over and it's got a color code. Each one of the colors matches with one of these four things: traps, monsters, mundane items, or relics. In the case of the green here, that goes with monsters. So you draw a monster card. In this case, it's fierce dogs, so they're going to have to fight their way through those fierce dogs in order to continue, or run away from them. I'm having to fight my way through some fierce kittens in order to do this video. But it just as easily could have been traps, which would have gone off on the characters, some mundane items, which are worth points in the end, or relics, which of course you want the most because that's the name of the game, and that gives you the most points. But they can also be used within the game. Like for instance, in this case, it's a heavy sidearm, so the characters can now grab those and use them against one another, or it could have been a map, which would have shown where some of the other things are around the board, so you can find out where the monsters are, traps are, other treasures, etc., etc. These are cards that are going to be sold separately within the game, and they're going to be available to get. However, within the game rules themselves, there's going to be a section within them where you roll to see what is there. So essentially you will find a discovery such as this one, and if you don't have the cards, you will be rolling to see what monster appears. And you'll be consulting the chart, and that's where you'll see where these various things are. As you can see, unlike most war games, this is not necessarily about destroying the enemy units. You can win that way. However, the object of the game is to get the most number of points, and you can get points through different means. Most of that is based on what faction you chose. The initial factions are going to be space pirates, corporate armies, and treasure hunters. There will be other factions added, or maybe in initially, depending on how much money we raise through the Kickstarter. But each of the factions has their own, not only advantages and disadvantages, but they get points based on that faction. So, treasure hunters want to find treasure, so they get more points through finding relics. Pirates are looking for booty. They're looking for valuable items that they can sell and make money off of. So they're looking for mundane items or relics, basically anything that is more valuable. The corporate armies, meanwhile, they're a little bit different. They're just wanting to take over huge sections of the board. And so they're a little bit more about the fighting. If you want a straight fighting kind of game, you're going to do corporate armies and you're just going to pound at each other, because basically you're just trying to take over entire sections with no enemy units and no discoveries in an area. They're just basically trying to clear areas, and they get points based on that. The board itself, in this case, is made up of a bunch of miniatures. I'm using Star Wars minis as the figures and aquarium pieces for the terrain. You can use a whole bunch of different things you can get from different places. I'm going to have a lot of these available on the Relic Worlds website where you can purchase them through that. However, I'm also going to have available, based on the amount that we raised through Kickstarter, cutout pieces that you can use so that you can start playing immediately, so that you don't have to buy the rules and then go out and buy a bunch of terrain. You can already have it available. One of the things that I'll be doing is creating all of these markers for figures. In this particular case, there's some of the pirates. It'll come out in these little box sets. You'll be able to purchase just the pirates and just essentially have that, or there will be a corporate armies box or a treasure hunters box, etc., etc. You'll basically get whatever group you particularly want, and have all the pieces you need for that, as well as a box set for the basic things that you're needing, like rulers or terrain or that sort of thing. So again, you can start playing without having to invest a gigantic amount. Plus, of course, this being sort of a new thing, there aren't a lot of figures made specifically for Relic Worlds, so this is what we're going to do to start. We will actually make miniatures just for Relic Worlds if we reach a certain stretch goal, but that stretch goal is going to be kind of high because miniatures can be pretty expensive. So in the meantime, we will have these markers that you can get, And we will have cutouts that you can get for these, and you can also purchase your own and make them into whatever you want within the game. The idea of Relic Worlds is, imagine Indiana Jones but in space. There were ancient alien civilizations out there. Humanity has spread into the stars, have found the ruins of all these alien civilizations, but the aliens themselves are all missing. So they're basically finding the remains of them, their ruins, their traps, the monsters that now inhabit them, and they're essentially finding the ancient relics that are left behind by them, and many of them are very powerful beyond anything humans have imagined. Now imagine these wars going on between those factions, and they're utilizing a lot of those items against one another, or they're just trying to take them as valuable items for themselves. So that's the idea of the book series, which you can all see on relicworlds.com. And the game itself is meant to reflect that. You take one of those factions, your opponent takes another faction, and you basically go against one another. You're finding these items, you're keeping them for valuables for yourself, or trying to accomplish goals of your faction, or fighting one another. So those are the basics of the game. You build your armies using a simple army building system. You put them on the board, you go looking for treasure, you fight monsters, you deal with traps, and you battle each other. And in the end, you gather up your points based on the faction that you are, based on how much treasure you found, and based on things that happen throughout the game. I'll make a more detailed tutorial video upon release of the game, so you can get a better sense of exactly how to play it. In the meantime, I wanted to show this. And also there will be a few other things that come along with this, such as a board game version that will play a little bit more like Descent or Shadows of Brimstone, that sort of thing. Again, a lot of these things will come out based on the Kickstarter stretch goals that we receive. You can see more details in the information below and go to the Kickstarter page itself and that sort of thing. But if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer as much as possible. But the Kickstarter itself will go from May 27th throughout June with the release in July. So I hope you all enjoy it, and thank you for watching.